You can read it, they're brand new.
Yeah, no, you guys take those.
Yeah, I put it out last week, so.
Yeah, welcome to July. All right. Everybody about ready? Yeah. Learn about the brain, how to keep your brains healthy. Oh, we should get the clicker. It's right back here. I'll just grab that. All right, so just so everybody knows, Lisa is on the camera the whole time. So everybody's watching Lisa the whole class. Last time, if you were watching online, you probably noticed that the mic cut out about 20 minutes in and was muted for about 12 minutes. So yeah, this week, we're not doing a mic. Yeah, we're not going to do a mic. So if you're going back, you're going to want to crank your volume way, way up because we're speaking into the office to get to the camera this time. So if you're going back to take notes again, you'll probably just have to turn that up a little bit. So I'm excited to get started on this one. This is probably the first class we've ever done on the month that everybody else is talking about it. You know, never mind that anybody actually talks about Alzheimer's and dementia during, you know, the 4th of July month. But that's what month it is. You know, a lot of people suffer from this. I was listening to a video on this the other day, and they said that since we made the huge dietary switches to try to prevent heart disease and you know, cancer because of all the red meats and the cholesterol that's in there, we've seen an increase in Alzheimer's and dementia by over 300%.
Wow.
So we have a lot of changing to do, a lot of changing. And Cheryl's going to go into some more specific statistics on what is Alzheimer's, what is dementia, you know, what are these other brain conditions, and why are they so preventable? And that's the thing here, is all this stuff, this is lifestyle preventable. Even the research out there says it's lifestyle preventable, but you have to get started early enough. And usually by the time the first symptoms start rolling around, you're usually already starting too late. You're not going to be able to get full recovery on it. So the earlier we get started on this stuff, the better. But even if you are down the road with some of it, just know that there's always something that you can do to get better. So this is Cheryl's show. I'm going to hand this over to her for most of the class, and I'm going to come in at the end and wrap some of the things up. But let's pay her the utmost of attention.
Okay. Well, welcome. I mean, most of you guys know me. Probably everybody online knows me. I am a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for not quite 40 years yet, but getting there. I worked ortho trauma. Lots of people I dealt with dementia because, you know what, they fall and break their hips, so they come see me. And unfortunately, that hip or that fracture kind of seems to be the beginning of the end for a lot of individuals. Yep. Thank you. Yep. So anyway, and I dealt with a lot of dementia over the years. My dad had dementia, I think Alzheimer's type dementia. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And jokingly, I tell people that when my dad was in his last year and a half, I didn't know who I was until I went in to see my dad, because some days I was his daughter, some days I was his wife, some days I was his sister, some days I was his mother, and I knew if he ever called me Billy, I was in big trouble. Billy was the neighborhood bully when he was a little kid. So if you started calling me Billy, that's when I would walk out of the room. I'd come back in 5 minutes and I was somebody else. Okay. So that's kind of part of my, lifelong, dealing with dementia. My grandmother, Dad's mom, had it as well. Very similar situation with her and her kind of gradual decline. So, and then again, from the professional standpoint, I've dealt with dementia. Actually, June was Alzheimer's month. And they do that, and I don't know if you heard, Runza here in town does on the 21st of June, they always do a fundraiser. And Alzheimer's Association calls it the longest day because number one, June 21st is the longest day of the year. Also, there's no days and nights. Those people with dementia lose the concept of days and nights, and it's a long process in dealing with dementia. So actually, as June is the official Alzheimer's month and Brain Awareness Month. So what is dementia? Everybody kind of has their own idea. People are surprised when I say that Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. They're not two separate diseases. A lot of people get really confused about that, but as it says there, dementia is a progressive disease, affects memory, language, thought. Eventually, it will affect our ability to self-care, ability to remember, how do I get to the bathroom? Those types of things. I can't brush my own teeth. I can't feed myself. It is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States. So Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia. It is the most common type of dementia. The problem with Alzheimer's disease is it's not technically diagnosed until after death and when they do it, if and when they do an autopsy. So a lot of times we just call it we call it dementia or Alzheimer's-like dementia. Vascular dementia, that means I'm not getting enough blood flow to my brain cells. And then as the brain starts to die off, that's how we start losing function. Lewy body disease is actually the dementia that's associated with Parkinson's disease. If you've known anybody with Parkinson's disease, end stage Parkinson's, those patients will start to have some dementia, typically Lewy body. And then alcohol related is listed here as the 4th type of dementia. Again, brain cells are starved. They're not getting what they need as far as the nutrition if the individual spends all their time drinking instead of eating appropriate nourishment. Okay. So the incidence, and I'm going to have to move. I hope that's okay. I can't see for the sun. The proportion of adults over the age of 70 with dementia has actually declined from 13% down to 10%, but we've got a whole lot more baby boomers that are in that over 70 age group. So the percentage may have gone down, but the actual number has gone up. 7 million Americans in 2020 had the diagnosis of dementia, 55 million worldwide. So we are not exclusive to that in the United States. And 2030, which is only 6 short years away, it's estimated to go up to 9 million by 2040, up to 12 million. Again, those are just the United States numbers. This resource actually says 6th leading cause of death. So I guess it depends on what resource you look at. Healthcare costs for those with dementia in 2018 was estimated at 277 billion with a B. Huge. And I think we'll get to it in a minute. A lot of that's private pay because Medicare, Medicaid do not cover a lot of the cares that those individuals with dementia need. Age, so the trends, as you can see, about 3% of individuals between 70 and 74 suffer from dementia, all the way up to the 90 plus, about 33% suffer from dementia. College graduates over the age of 70 have about a 3% chance of having dementia. Those individuals with less than 12 years of education, it goes up to about 18%. So go get your bachelor's degree in something, or even your associate's degree, and you might have a lower risk of developing dementia. Gender, women have a higher chance of dementia than men. Part of that, my guess is that the women are living a little bit longer. Life expectancy is a little bit longer as well. This looks at over 70. Again, ethnicity. So non-Hispanic whites about 8.5%. His non-Hispanic blacks and Hispanics are over 16%. Again, huge numbers, and that's almost double there. Lower risk for those individuals who are married. Again, my personal interjection here would be, yes, they have somebody, an adult person to talk to, but maybe there's partially some compensation too. And I've seen that with a lot of couples. They may be doing fine or seemingly fine on the outside, but either the wife is covering for him or vice versa, so that nobody knows that the other one's having problems, at least in the earlier stages when they can. So that number, it might be a little bit skewed. Okay, costs. So more than 4 times as many people with dementia live in some type of a care setting. Means they're not living at home, they're not taking care of themselves. This could be a long-term nursing home. This could be an assisted living facility. This could be having somebody come into their home and help take care of them. 4 times as many people with dementia are requiring care than those who do not have dementia. Of those people age 70 and over who do live in nursing homes, 70% have dementia of some kind. Unfortunately, where they live depends on their ability to pay. Like I just referred to, Medicare, you have to meet specific criteria to be able to qualify for skilled nursing care or skilled care. So, and irregardless if you do qualify, you still only get your maximum like 100 days per year, and then you have to be out of a facility, I want to say 60 days before Medicare will start over again. Medicaid, which is the state's for low-income individuals, that also barely touches, and a lot of things aren't going to be covered with that as well. Out-of-pocket costs for people with dementia are greater than 80% higher than those without dementia. What does this say? So family ends up providing a lot of that unpaid care to fill in those gaps between what a Medicare or insurance will cover. Long-term care insurance, I can go into that too. What they follow the same rules basically as Medicare does, so they'll only cover what Medicare covers. They'll just do it for a longer period of time. These are just some estimates of the last 5 years of a patient's life of unpaid care. So for dementia, it's 287,000. For somebody with heart disease in the last 5 years is 175,000. And somebody with cancer for the last 5 of their years is 173,000. So just to kind of give you an impact on how significant dementia is. So the top 5 working signs of dementia, or what do we typically think of? We think of memory loss that interferes or disrupts daily living. So these individuals are forgetting events, they're forgetting names. I can't tell you how many times I bought my father a calendar. I would go and I would write appointments on his calendar for him. And he still, that wasn't enough. Okay, so I did that a lot. Like I said, I didn't know who I was until I got there every day. And other people who didn't come as often as I did, because the last 4 months of his life, I was with him every single day. Again, those people, some of them he didn't recognize at all. Challenges in problem solving or planning. So this is more of an earlier sign and symptom. unable to pay bills, or they can't remember how to pay bills. Somebody who's been cooking for 50 years and all of a sudden can't remember how to make toast, or can't remember how to make that recipe that they've been making for all those years. I know, like I said, with my dad, Mom had to keep the coffee pot unplugged because he was always turning it on and forgetting to put water in there and those types of things. My aunt, his sister, bless her heart, they had to take her microwave away from her because she was putting her socks in the microwave to dry them out and warm them up. Well, that didn't go over too well either with the facility. So those types of things. Difficulty completing familiar tasks. So driving, cooking, shopping, huge issues. You get to the grocery store and you don't remember what you went there for. As people, and I grew up in a little very small town of 300 people, and we knew those people who could make it from their house to the post office and back, and then they could make it from their house to the church and back. Now, all of that, I mean, this whole town is like 6 blocks by 3 blocks, so pretty small town. But if something would come up and they would have to deviate from that, they were lost. And unfortunately, either they wouldn't give in or they didn't have family close enough that knew what was going on. And as I'm looking back, I'm thinking, yeah, there were probably a lot more than we didn't know about that were kind of in that condition. Confusion with place and time. Again, losing track of dates, forgetting when your own birthday is, forgetting. And sometimes we want to forget our own birthdays, but you don't want to forget when your kids' birthdays are. Those types of things, or a holiday. What season is it? And those are some of the questions when we're talking to patients and looking at orientation. If they don't know the name of what month we're in and what day it is, I'm usually okay if they don't know the date, but I want them to know the month. And if they don't know that, then I want them to know at least what holiday did we just have, or what holiday's coming up. If they can't tell us that, then we've got some issues. And then trouble understanding visual images or spatial relationships. Has problems with balance, tripping over things, spilling more often than they used to. They can't get that cup to their mouth, or they can't get that spoon to their mouth like they used to. Walking to the bathroom becomes a hazard for some people because they may not look, or they may not see, and there may not even be anything there, and they're tripping anyway. Okay, so again, this is just kind of in picture form. Difficulty making decisions, memory. Oh, I just realized it's spelled wrong. I didn't make this, I just copied it, but misplacing items. Everybody always thinks that they have dementia when they've misplaced their keys. Well, it's bigger things than just that. It's repeated. It's not just, I forgot where I put my keys today. But if it happens every day this month, then we got problems. Confusion with dates and times, social withdrawal. Some of what I was saying with couples, and then one will kind of cover for the other one. You may start seeing that they'll kind of withdraw. They're less likely to go to church. They're less likely to, in the small town, all the guys go to bar at 10 o'clock in the morning for their coffee and their gap sessions. Those types of things they'll quit doing. Reduced ability to understand what's going on. Okay. So risk factors, we always talk about modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. Non-modifiable, so they know what non-modifiable risk factors are, things I can't change. My age, my gender, really, I mean, you can, but you can't change your gender, and my ethnicity or my family history. I can't do a whole lot about those 3 things. Everything else is considered modifiable. So we can definitely modify our diet and our exercise. We can modify our alcohol intake. cardiovascular, and I put metabolic syndrome here. Metabolic syndrome, you may have heard me talk a little bit about that before, but that's high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and high waist measurement. Those four things tend to run together, and if you've got one or two, you're likely to get the other one or two. Okay, so cardiovascular risk factors, we can do things about. Depression, we can help. Air pollution, head trauma, sleeping problems, vitamin deficiencies, and these are the 1, 2, 3, 4 specific ones. And then medications. What medications are we taking that may be contributing to some of the dementia, the forgetfulness? Okay, so prevention. How do we prevent? We need to keep our minds active. We need to be physically and socially active. Keep going out there. Keep meeting people. Keep going to church. Keep doing whatever your social activities are. Keep walking. Even if you can't do much else, get out there and walk. Quit smoking. Vitamin supplements if you're not getting enough in your diet. Manage those cardiovascular risk factors. Like I said, the blood pressure, the heart rate, the cholesterol. Treat any health conditions. Eat a healthy diet, and then get good sleep. Okay. So the keys to becoming brain fit lies within the 5 essentials. Everybody can tell me what the 5 essentials are, right? Yep. Okay. So we'll start with mindset, positive mindset or mindset. Okay. So sometimes stress is the problem. The more stress I'm under, what does that do? That increases my fight or flight, my sympathetic nervous system. That increases my narrow-mindedness, my one focus. My focus is to get out of danger. So that can have over long periods of time. That can really reduce my ability to function. Prolonged stress leads to anxiety, depression, poor decision making, and insomnia, and memory loss. If I'm being chased by a lion, I want to make the right decision, but because I'm so narrow focused, I may only see the back door. I may not see that I've got a room over here to hide in and lock the door until somebody else can get that lion out. Okay. If I go out the back door, I might forget to shut it, and the lion's going to follow me out. So again, poor decision making. Stress, again, makes your brain shrink. You're not getting the oxygen to that brain tissue that you need to. Proper sleep, exercise, diet, prayer, meditation, and nervous system checkups help reduce your stress. And we're preaching to the choir. Stress damages that mind-body connection. Stress, like it says, stress kills your brain cells with overload of those hormones. Again, that epinephrine, that adrenaline. By the way, those are the same thing. They're just two names for it. Those are intended to be short-term. In long-term, they can damage, they can kill cells. They can also raise our blood sugars, because when I'm running from that lion, I need more sugar produced so that I can get more energy to run. But if I'm long-term, it's going to raise my blood sugars. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So what do we focus on? First of all, we don't want to focus on stress reduction. We want to focus more on happy relaxation, because if I focus on stress, what am I going to do? Get more stress. Yeah. What we concern our minds with or worry about never comes about, causing unnecessary stress and sickness. Zig Ziglar. Know him. Okay, mindset. I kind of already talked about mindset. I don't know. So adequate sleep and rest. Again, concentration. We need to be able to focus when we need to focus, and see other plans. So it's not just a straight line from point A to point B. We may need to take some different routes to get there. Again, those are part of that mindset and being able to consider different options. Self-talk sabotage. So we need to practice more positive talk. when I work with nursing students, a lot of times they come to me and they're so negative. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I said, no, you can't. But let's think what we can do. You know, we can practice self-talk. Right on your mirror. You've got this. You can do this. I know this. You know, say those things to yourself over and over. Write those things. Well, when you used to have a piece of paper, now they give you a dry erase marker. But when you've got that dry erase marker, write on it. I can do this. I got this. Okay. We will get through this. I see myself. I am prepared and I'm ready. Okay. Those are positive self-talks. They're going to help you with your mindset. We can't prevent stress, like I said, but we can help manage it. Other ways for positive affirmations. Again, these are just more positive affirmations. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. A quitter never wins, a winner never quits. A lot of these things we've heard throughout time, and we don't really want to believe them. But we need to refocus our mind to being able to think about these things. The early bird gets the worm. My grandmother, not the grandmother with dementia, the other grandmother would always tell me, and I don't know, I think I was 5 or 6 when she said, let's always do what we have to do today so that the rest of the day we can do whatever we want to. So you got to get up in the morning, you got to make your bed, you got to, eat your breakfast, do the dishes, whatever tasks you have to do those first thing in the morning. Then you've got the whole day. I don't always follow that, but I always remember that. Okay? Positive attitude. You are who you hang out with. If you hang out with negative Nellies, you're going to become a negative Nellie yourself. Live with gratitude. Laugh at yourself. Laugh with others. Don't laugh at others. Prayer, meditation, again, adequate sleep. Be grateful for what you have, because you can always find somebody that doesn't have as much as you do. Not that we want to put them down, but we want to say, yeah, I can do this. I can get through this. Susie was able to manage, and look what she's got going on, type of thing. Challenge your mind. Brain teasers, Sudoku puzzles, word searches. Pick something that you like. Pick some type of brain. I don't know about you in crossword puzzles. I can do some, but some of them are way beyond me and I don't want to. But work on some brain puzzles every day. It's so easy now. You can just download an app on your phone, sit there and play a couple. I don't know too many people that still get the newspaper, but there are like Sudoku puzzles and other types of daily puzzles in the newspapers as well. Brain needs, nutrition. So essential number 2, we're kind of going out of order because we're putting chiropractic at the end. So essential, brain needs a disproportionate share of the body's nutrients. This brain is only about 7 pounds out of your 130, 140, or however many pounds you are. But you know what? It needs a whole lot more nutrition because it's a pretty high functioning piece of equipment in your body. So it does need more nutrition. We're going to talk about macronutrients and micronutrients. The macros are your complex carbohydrates. They are going to provide that steady stream of energy to your brain. Your brain needs glucose to function. It needs glucose inside those cells to be able to function. Complex carbohydrates. So your fruits, your vegetables are complex carbs. Not the candy bar, not the white bread. Those are pretty simple carbs. Regular consumption of unhealthy carbs will shrink your brain. They spike your blood sugar, and there is a type of Alzheimer's disease that is now called type 3 diabetes. because people who have long-term elevated blood glucoses are getting Alzheimer's type dementia, and they're associating it with the chronic high blood sugars. So we're seeing more information coming out about type 3 diabetes. Proteins do break down into those amino acids. Those amino acids are the building blocks that help build those neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters, by the way, are the little chemicals that are released to help that nervous system communicate. So one nerve doesn't run from the base of my skull down to my big toe. I've got lots of links of nerves, and each nerve will release a neurotransmitter to tell the next nerve what to do. That will follow down to the next nerve, release the chemical so that we get that. So anywhere along that pathway where the neurotransmitter isn't enough, or the receptors aren't good enough, there's not enough receptors, we get a dysfunction or a disconnect. So the neurotransmitters as dopamine, serotonin, GABA, epinephrine, that's just a small portion of them. Those are the most common that we talk about. There are a whole bunch more. And then healthy fats. So people who consume low-fat diets have a higher risk of depression and suicide. So we want healthy fats, not your trans fats, not your vegetable oils, those types of things. Okay. Essential nutrient, these are your micronutrients. So those were macro, they're big ones. Micronutrients, we need our B vitamins, also called your anti-stress vitamins. As it says, helps, vitamin B12 is a leading cause of neurologic disease. Some people may have heard of pernicious anemia. That's a vitamin B12 deficiency. We need B12 to be able to attach the oxygen to the red blood cell to get the oxygen where it needs to go. Okay. So again, without that adequate oxygen, we'll talk about oxygen in a minute, confusion, dementia, nerve damage, weakness, depression, weakness, fatigue. High risk for patients who have B12 deficiency are elderly individuals. Vegetarians, because our primary source of your B vitamins is animal protein. So people who are vegetarian need to be very, very careful about making sure they get enough B12. PPI, your proton pump inhibitors, the Protonics, the Prevacid, those types of medications will actually inhibit what we call the intrinsic factor. This is getting pretty technical, I'm sorry. It makes your body unable to use the vitamin B12 that you eat, okay? So even if I'm getting enough B12 in my mouth, these medications prevent my body from being able to convert it to a usable form, okay? So proton pump inhibitors, like I said, Prevacid, Protonic. The H2 blockers, this is your Zantac, your Pepcid, same thing, works in the gut to help reduce the acid in our gut. They also interfere with B12 absorption. And then metformin, what's metformin for? Blood sugars. That also can inhibit B12 production. Okay, so interesting. Vitamin D is your sunshine vitamin. Again, everybody, we get lots of sunshine. We want lots of sunshine out there. And it actually helps, it improves mood, memory, helps prevent dementia. Seasonal affective disorder, if you've heard that, people who get more depressed in the winter when there's less light, that contributes to vitamin D deficiency as well. Also, vitamin D deficiency interferes with bone health and immunity and a lot of other things. So very important. Magnesium, and I like it, they call it the original chill pill. It increases mood, focus, it helps with sleep, fewer cravings, more resilience to stress, more energy. People sleep better, it decreases muscle cramping, lots of things. And honestly, probably only in the last 10 years have we paid much attention to magnesium. We're learning more about that all the time. Your omega-3 fatty acids, so this is your good, healthy, anti-inflammatory fats. They are going to help prevent memory loss, depression, mood swings, dementia. I think there's something. I don't think attention deficit disorder is what that probably means, but for some reason, I mean, it makes sense. I just didn't think that would be the abbreviation I would use. And then improves the DHA levels. So DHA being the healthiest, the predominant of the omega-3s that we have in our body. So again, where do we get those foods from? And I'll talk about that. And then antioxidants help slow down cellular aging process. So your B vitamins, we kind of said, your leafy greens, your meats, going to have your primary, we've got some tomatoes there, we've got some nuts, so a lot of different varieties. So again, if you are vegetarian or vegan, you need to pay more attention to getting the adequate vitamin D in your diet. Vitamin D, again, sunlight is our primary. It's in a lot of these other products. Seafood is big, and because it's so important, science, again, food by science, not food by man, other way around. Man has done a lot to add vitamin D and supplement vitamin D into food products. Again, we're manipulating the food that we want you to eat, not the food that God designed you. Okay. Magnesium, again, nuts, flaxseed, some spinach, some bananas, some avocado. Again, and a lot of these, if you might notice, they are rich in several of the different sources. So just because I need more magnesium doesn't mean the avocado isn't going to help me with a lot of other deficiencies as well. Omega-3s, for example. Again, your avocado, your healthy meat, your healthy fats are avocado, coconut, olive, wild-caught fish, wild-caught seafood is going to be healthy in the omega-3s. Okay. So this one then talks about, again, good nutrition and kind of the different foods that fit into the different categories. So beans will help with cholesterol, lowering cholesterol. Cancer fighters, your cranberries, these are my antioxidants. I'm sorry, I didn't have that on here. So the antioxidants. So beans do have antioxidant properties that they will help prevent some cancers. Antioxidant, all of our cells will age, they'll get oxygen, just like you have a piece of metal that sits out, it's going to rust, that's oxidation. Your cells will oxidize over time, but if we can give your cells adequate oxygen or antioxidants, prevent that aging. So that's what this is. So your cranberries, your raspberries, your pomegranate, heart healthy or antioxidants, purple grapes, purple potatoes, blueberries, black currants, so a lot of berries on here. And those are your healthier antioxidants. Those are also very rich in, it's on the advanced plant, your berries, organic berries. Wrinkle fighters. So here's your lemon, your sunflower seeds, again, good antioxidants. And then breast cancer fighters, it talks about broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and kale. Okay, so supplements. What do we have available? How can we help meet those nutritional needs? that possibly are not being met. These middle 5 should look very familiar. That's what's in your daily essentials packet. I do have to tell you that they're changing that. So in the meantime, I don't have the 5 essentials packs. I've got 2 more left for men, none for women. So what we're doing is giving you the 5 bottles, the B complex, the multivitamin, the magnesium, the optimal omega, and the vitamin D. We just said how important all of those are for preventing dementia. We have the Brain Vital, and we also have the Cogni-Aid, which provides some additional supplements to help provide the brain with the good nutrition that it needs, reducing the oxidation in the brain tissue. doTERRA has some things as well. You can diffuse a blend of 1 part coriander and 2 parts lemon. Put that in your diffuser and inhale or breathe that in for about 15 minutes a day. You can also diffuse a combination of peppermint and rosemary throughout the day, or you can massage a combination of rosemary and peppermint into your scalp daily. Will help with mental clarity. 2 other critical nutrients that we didn't talk about because they don't really fit in macro or micro, but oxygen, again, that's one of our essentials. We know oxygen is incredibly important, and our brain uses a lot of oxygen to be able to function. And then, of course, water. That we need as much water as we can get, and this is just a little calculation so that you have it in front of you. If you weigh 200 pounds, you take that times 0.5 or half, which is 100. That means if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be getting 100 ounces of water a day. These are recommended, which is a whole lot more accurate than just telling everybody you need to drink 8 8-ounce glasses of water a day. Okay. Or just 8 cups of water a day. I asked for a lot of years, well, how big is a cup? Because is it that measuring cup? Is it a coffee cup? What is it? But 100 ounces, set that out in the morning or fill a specific pitcher and know how many times a day I need to drink. I need to empty that pitcher to calculate how much water intake you need. Okay, exercise. We know that by exercising, we're going to breathe deeper. We're going to suck in a whole lot more oxygen. Exercise also increases those endorphins. What are endorphins? I just kind of talked about them. I call them neurotransmitters. The dopamine, the serotonin. Those are neurotransmitters, but they're also going to make me feel better. And if I can get those levels higher, I'm going to feel better. What is, and some of you may not have a clue, but it just came to my brain. Antidepressants. What are the most common antidepressants? SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. What that means is Paxil, yeah. What that means is it's going to prevent my body from reuptaking the serotonin. So it's going to keep that serotonin available to my nerves longer. So I'm going to feel better, okay? If I'm just getting enough exercise, increasing my natural serotonin, I don't need to take the SSRIs, okay? Physical exercise may be the single most important thing you can do for your brain. Getting the oxygen it needs and increasing those feel-good endorphins. You don't need to exercise strenuously, but just small bursts throughout the day. Exercise regularly. Again, exercise supports your brain, helping to produce new neurons and preventing that neural degeneration. Excess sitting decreases or increases risk of disease. I know you've heard Dr. Jake say before that sitting is the new smoking. Sitting does increase your risk for a lot of diseases. Toxins, that's another one of our essentials. We need to minimize toxins. Here we go. Avoid your simple carbs, your mutilated milks. Man-made, they pasteurize it, they homogenize it. Oh, let's say add some vitamin D to it. Let's add a couple more things to it. And then we're going to get it from cows that have been fed hormones so that they can produce more milk. Okay. And then your white breads, your pastas, those types of things, like we talked about, fast, turn to glucose quickly. Your brain does not like those quick, fast glucose because it spikes and it keeps your sugars too high too long. Avoid or eliminate mercury from your body. So if you have fillings, I was not too long ago, somebody in here was talking about mercury. We're talking about, remember when you used to play with mercury? Yeah, you know, and when it was in the thermometers, I know I spent time in my chemistry class or physics class or something playing with mercury. It was so fun, you know? Yeah, mercurochrome. That was grandma's cure for everything. You know, exactly. Try to avoid or eliminate mercury. Aluminum. There have been, and there are research out there that shows that the aluminum in your deodorant can increase risk for dementia. Teflon, all those things that are chemicals in our cookware, those can all be scratched off. We eat them as we scratch them off of our pans. As we're heating our pans up, we can be emitting those fumes. Flu vaccines and other medications or drugs. Again, we don't even can't even begin to list what's all in these. Nor are the companies going to tell us what's in them. So be aware. And chiropractic. So Dr. Jake, this is you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, give it up for Cheryl.
The fifth and final. Essential.
I mean, I swear, sometimes it's like fires, isn't it? Yeah, just hit you in the face, and it's like, where am I? So hopefully you guys took some good notes there. I want to spend a little bit of time to talk about neuroplasticity. Who's heard of neuroplasticity? Maybe a few of you. So neuroplasticity is really, you know, the more you're able to grow your brain, the longer you're going to live. Basically, what a brain is down to. Neuroplasticity is the way your brain grows. And so the way you think of neuroplasticity, it's like laying down new neuron pathways, is very much like creating a superhighway from a wheelbarrow. Let's say you've got your wheelbarrow and you're filling it up with rocks down at the beach, and you forged a new path through the forest from your brand new cabin over in the woods. And it's not that far of a walk, but it is a little walk, and you don't really have a path. You just walk to the woods with your wheelbarrow. Well, there's a small track because you walked through the woods to the beach with your wheelbarrow. Now you filled it up with rocks, and you need to go back to your cabin. That first time with that load of rocks is going to be the hardest time. That's like the first time you sat down and you did a Sudoku. Anybody remember that first time you did a Sudoku? It's like, how's this work? Like the ones and nines and sevens, and you're trying to get your brain to work. And for those of us that like Sudoku, we've done several dozen to several hundred to several thousand of these things. Now you're on the advanced level, and it's like, oh, 9 0, 6 there, 3 there. I'm done in 5 minutes. And it's because over time you've gone back and forth between the cabin and the river, and now that trail that you had to one time just forge that pathway now is basically the superhighway where you've got interstate running up and down with cars going at 80 miles an hour back and forth. You don't even have to think about it. And so the way that we do this is we have to send those signals over and over. The more that we send those signals, the stronger that becomes. And that's why things like Sudoku, things like those crossword puzzles that make you go back into the recesses of your brain and force things to work that you don't necessarily need on a daily basis, but you've learned in the past. That's why it's so important. And that's actually where chiropractic comes in, because chiropractic is all about neuroplasticity. One of the ways that we break down those pathways is we stop using it. what happens if that pathway is blocked? If it's not blocked, you're also not using it, right? If a boulder lands in that path on the way of the river, you might be sending a superhighway full of information one way and the other, but it's all stopping there. And when traffic comes up to a boulder, guess what? It has to find a new way around, and you have to form new neural pathways. And fortunately, our body is built that way where it will create new neural pathways. But if the obstacle is large enough, you just stop using that part, and what happens to that nerve? It withers up and it goes away. And that's actually what subluxation is. And so we have an example here. This is an MRI. Most of us don't get to see MRIs. I don't work with MRIs most of the time. But occasionally we get an opportunity to see everything at work. And so this is actually Dr. Charles Majors. Those of you that have seen the cancer class, I talk about Dr. Charles Majors a lot. Sometimes we put some of his videos up here. But he got stage 4 multiple myeloma, diagnosed with it, given several weeks to live. And there were a lot of factors. And if you go back to the class, you'll hear about all the ways he was getting life wrong, even though he was getting adjusted, he was working out. Like, there was a lot of things that he was doing wrong. But one of the biggest things that was happening was when he was getting adjusted, he was just getting adjusted. There was no end goal in mind. He was just, I'm getting cracked because I know I need to get adjusted. I know that's one of the essentials. But he hadn't stopped and gotten x-rays or anything for years. So in the hospital, once he had multiple myeloma and metastasis to his brain stem that they couldn't operate on, it was inoperable. He said, okay, well, they had to get an MRI. And one of the things that jumped off the page at him was just what was happening right there in the middle of his neck. Now, what's supposed to be in the middle of your neck? Yeah, 45-degree curve. How much curve does it look like he has through there? Yeah, not much at all. And so what happens when you lose that curve is you create a pathological tension that's placed on the spinal cord. So instead of a big boulder coming in there and slamming it and closing it down, what we're doing is we're stretching out all those nerve fibers. When you lose the curve in your neck, that lengthens it by as much as 7 centimeters, or about 3.5 inches. So imagine something that's supposed to be about this long, going about, for the camera, right? Going from that long to that long. That's almost doubling its length. That is major stress. Think of it like a rubber band. If you had a rubber band and you were to take that, most of the time it's in tension because you're moving around and you're doing it, but you now lengthen that rubber band by 3 inches, and you look really closely at it. What starts forming inside of that rubber band? Yeah, little holes and breaks in it. And you leave that tension on there long enough where you start twisting it in that position, using it up and down and moving it back and forth. What's eventually going to happen to some of those little breaks? They're going to tear through. And the same thing is happening in your spinal cord. Now, fortunately, that has blood and nutrients and oxygen coming in, and your immune system is doing its repairs. The white blood cells are coming in and filling up those gaps and repairing it over and over. But what happens if we keep breaking it, increase the stress, decrease the nutrients, decrease the blood flow, because now we're not exercising? That's why this condition here, that cervical myelopathy that happens when you lose the curve in your neck, is linked to all forms of neurologically degenerative conditions. You name it dementia, you name it Alzheimer's, you name it Parkinson's, you name it multiple sclerosis, you name it ALS, all of those are linked to losing the curve in their neck. So who here wants to know what the state of the curve is? Right? Like, what was that? I don't remember the exact degrees. And hopefully it's 45, because that's when the spinal cord is the most relaxed. But until the 1980s, we didn't know about this. And so a lot of surgeons, even trained into the 1990s and early 2000s, were trained that to take pressure off of the nerve roots, you actually had to put a reverse curve in the neck. And so people that had surgical fusions in the 80s, the 70s, even in the early 2000s, just because of the way that it takes information so long to trickle up from the research into the med schools and then back down to the doctors through continuing education classes, it's decades before they learn that. I've seen people that have had, within the last 10 to 15 years, reverse curves due to surgical fusion in their necks. And so they're actually creating, they might be saving their lives by solidifying it, but because the surgeon learned they have to buckle it the wrong way, now they're basically condemned to these long-term neurologically degenerative conditions, just sitting in their neck because of the neurological degenerative condition that was given to them, right? Just because the fix was wrong. And so we want to come in here and we want to help fill the gap, help fill that bridge. So what are some signs? What are some bad connection signs between the brain and the body? But let's look at this backwards. And we're actually seeing this start to trickle down now, the more that we've got technology in our lives, especially cell phones and tablets. Because why? What's the easiest position to hold a cell phone or tablet? It's heavy, so it drops, and so does your head with it, right? And so not just adults have these, teens and now infants and toddlers are starting to get it, but headaches, neck pain, ear infections, menstrual problems, dizziness, frequent colds, high blood pressure, fatigue, constipation, depression, acid reflux, attention or focus problems, numbness or tingling, food intolerances, sleep problems, sciatica, low back pain, allergies and asthma, eczema, and skin issues. And no, I'm not picking on the people in this room. Right? I know some of you related to some of that. That's just the most common stuff. And why? Because when you put pressure on the nerves where they exit out and they go to the heart, what happens? Blood pressure goes up because that's the stress response. Come down to the digestive system, we disrupt the gut. Now we develop skin issues as an outside side, digestive issues as an inside side. Hormonal issues, that's where a lot of the hormones are produced, coming off of the low back. And so we have to look to see what the cause of those things are. We take it back to teenagers. Sports injuries, very common sign that something's been disconnected there. But when we take that down, depression is becoming more and more common amongst our teens, isn't it? You know, you look at the teen issues, depression, self-esteem, those have always been things, but now they're going higher and higher, especially since 2020 happened. Hormonal issues, yeah, the hormones are going crazy. What also is going crazy at that time? Acne, right? Kids are getting acne. You know, parents, I see parents all the time with these kids that have teens with acne. Like, oh, they're just teens. I had it when I was their age too. Acne is a sign that the gut has been dysregulated. And when the gut's dysregulated, the brain is not firing. If you're getting acne, it's a sign that something is going wrong now. And take it back to babies. Babies that won't be comforted. We've got a story right now of a baby that was not under chiropractic care, even though the mom was under chiropractic care all through the pregnancy, developed colic. All the mom's friends, because she was very medical, she was a nurse, all of her friends were very scared about her taking the baby to the chiropractor, but the baby had colic, wouldn't sleep. Finally, after several weeks of this, she takes the baby and she's like, I haven't slept since this child was born. I need some sleep. So anything that you can do, checks the spine, does an adjustment. The baby the baby was pooping like once a week at this point. Pooped 4 times on the way home, fell asleep, slept all the way home, consistently slept through the night from that point forward. It's amazing. So yeah, digestive issues directly related to colic. Latching issues, usually a sign that there's something wrong at atlas, which atlas and sacrum for babies are the biggest 2 spots. Harvard did a study measuring misalignments in babies' necks, and they found that atlas was out about 95% of the time after a normal birth. A regular vaginal delivery, atlas was out. Eczema, obviously skin issues reflect gut issues, usually relate to a disconnection. You're going to usually find sacrum with that. Ear infections, it's usually atlas or C2 are happening in babies there. It should not be tubes. Tubes should never be the answer to an ear infection. Usually it's a lack of drainage that happens because atlas or C2 are clogging up that internal drainage space, and that autoimmune issues usually relate to the vagus nerve as it's being reflected there. So head tilt, right? So what's in this guy's hand? He had the cell phone. So is in any of these positions, is he holding it in a good position for you to have good posture? No, they're all down here. So where's the head going to go? It's going to go down. And some people, they just drop their head a little bit. Some people, they drop their neck. Some people drop their shoulders. And what this study showed out of St. Mark's Hospital, right, is that if you get up to a 60-degree drop, you're adding 60 pounds of stress across the neck and shoulders. And that puts the most stress across these nerves here. Now, where do these nerves go? Heart and lungs. And so if you're ever talking to somebody about chiropractic and subluxation and how a misalignment of the spine can affect their health, and they're like, I don't believe in that chiropractic stuff. Say, well, wait a second. I don't need you to believe in it. Gravity is gravity, whether you believe in it, right? Do a trick for me. Sit up straight and tall. Hold your posture high as you can. I know some of you can't get it as far as you'd like, but sit up straight and tall. Take a deep breath. Feel how the oxygen fills up your lungs. Now, just drop your head. It doesn't have to be all the way. You don't have to close down your throat, but just drop your head. Now try to take a deep breath here. That's this in action, right? You got a 60% decrease in lung capacity because of pressure on the nerve going to your lungs. Chiropractic is not a belief system. Chiropractic is not a pseudoscience. Some of the things that people claim about chiropractic can be. But chiropractic is real because we're talking about real things that interfere with your body's ability to maintain connection with your brain. And so we have to watch our posture with cell phones, with technology. If you're ever working on a laptop, that's one of the most dangerous positions, right? You think you're in front of a real computer, you're hunched down like a caveman, right? So we got to get it up and we got to get it back. So some of the things that you can do at work, request a standing desk, right? If you're in this position with the screen up at eye level, you're not going to slouch, you know? And if you're working from home, if it's actual work, you can still request a standing desk. We want to do that. Take more breaks. We talked about sitting is the new smoking. It's only the new smoking if you sit uninterrupted for an hour straight or more. An hour of uninterrupted sitting is equivalent to 1 cigarette's worth of life expectancy. You smoke a single cigarette, you lose about 11 minutes of life expectancy. You sit for an hour straight without getting up. Sorry, guys. Everybody stand up. Save your lives right here. Come on. Stand up. Move it around a little bit. Sitting for an hour straight, 14 minutes of life expectancy. So think about the last movie that you sat through. Think about the last time you sat at a Bible study or in church or at a talk like this. It's like, that's a lot of times adding up, let alone, you know, video gamers out there that just go for hours and hours and hours and hours. So go ahead and have a seat. Take more breaks. So I like to set a timer on my phone, especially if I know I'm going to be doing something for a long time. You know, if you're watching a movie at home, say 45 minutes in, let's get up, let's go get some water, let's refresh the popcorn, go back and sit down. That's exactly right. Bring back the commercials. Move the printer across the room so every time you print something, if you do that anymore, you have to get up and go there. If you work in an office setting, getting up and talking to the person instead of sending that email or text message works so much better. Parking further away. This is something I've played with in my mind. I need to get like a wrap on my car, park way out by the road, so I have to walk all the way into the store across the parking lot. Yeah. Taking the stairs, even if it's just 1 to 2 flights, yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot. You know, just something to get you moving, get that exercise. Sitting on a stability ball, make yourself engage your core while you sit. Even if you're sitting in a chair like this, your wobble disc can be a nice replacement because then you still have the option to lean back, but it makes you want to sit up. And then when you do find yourself slouching, take it out, stand up, move yourself around a little bit, get that movement going, and then stretching daily and frequently. If you don't know how to stretch, just do a YouTube search. Find, you know, quick 5-minute stretch routine, and you'll find some really good ones there. So what is subluxation though? So I get this a lot because on my progress evaluation forms, I'll say, have all your family members been checked for subluxation? People are like, what is that? I'm like, that's what we've been talking about the whole time. That's why you're coming to the chiropractor. Subluxation in the Latin means a condition of less light. Condition of less light. And what does that mean? Well, it means that there's a light up here. It's trying to get out down to all these cells, organs, and tissues, and it can't. There's less light that's able to get out down there. This in here is all the potential in the world. It created you out of nothing. And it just has to get out to keep everything else healthy. And so when there's a misalignment in the spine, so this is a gross example, right? So that big curve off to the side there, that's a scoliosis. Scoliosis is an example of a gross subluxation. This kind of subluxation we know equates to 14 to 18 years of life expectancy decrease. That's huge, right? And then what's that going down the middle of? Harrington. So this person's had it fused. So in some cases, this can actually save a person's life if it's so gross. If it's over 40 degrees, most surgeons will fuse that on an emergency basis because a spine that's that far deviated away from normal, that's all it can come up, that's someone who's got so much pressure on their nervous system that it could snap at any minute. And who knows exactly what that ramification would be. So that's severe damage when we're talking about a severe scoliosis like that. Hopefully, most of you don't have that. And I think in this room, we're not dealing with that level of scoliosis. We're trying to prevent that. for a lot of people. But we do see a lot of these, right? So I wanted to tell you guys a story about someone that's somewhat related to this. So her memory was fine. Her brain seemed to be fine. But after her husband died, Margie started to develop tremors. Just little tremors showing that things weren't working well. And this is bad for Margie because she's a piano teacher, right? And so if your hands are doing this on the piano, you're probably not going to be able to hit the right keys all the time, which is embarrassing when you're trying to teach 5-year-olds how to hit the right keys. And so Margie's friends, she's a patient here. She loves what we're doing. She says, Margie, you need to come into the office and let Dr. Jake take a look at you. So we bring her in, we do a history, we sit down, we go through everything. It seems like it's all related, but she says the doctors, and she's been through MRIs, she's had x-rays, she's had brain scans, they can't find it. They say, Margie, we think it's all in your head. Here, go see a psychologist. They'll work you through the grief of losing your husband. That's real, right? You lose a loved one, and absolutely that can be the trigger. And for her, it was. I think all of this that I found once I did her x-ray was there before her husband died. But that emotional stress on top of the physical neurological stress of her completely losing that curve and developing phase 3 arthritis in those joints was enough to trigger that response. So we took care of Margie. She committed to care. She went through the program. We did about 3 months with her. And after 3 months, you can see we made some change. Not all of the change, right? It's not perfect. Unfortunately, there's no such thing as a perfect patient, right? If Jesus was here, he could qualify, but he probably wouldn't need chiropractic care. He'd just be like, okay, gotcha, right? And he'd be doing that for all of us. But yeah, so she had 42 millimeters of head forward posture. That's equivalent to about 20 pounds of additional stress across the neck and shoulders when she's upright, right? Let alone when she goes down to look at smartphone or cell phone. We brought that back about an inch and a half here. And so 28, that's about 15 pounds of additional stress with that. At the point that I took this x-ray, the tremors were gone, right? I didn't do that, right? That was her body, her innate intelligence healing itself as we worked together to remove the interference. Now, at this point, she was teaching piano. She got, quote unquote, too busy to continue her chiropractic care. So what's going to happen to her spine? It's going to go back. And unfortunately, as it went back, the tremors came back. She came in about 5 months later, right back to where it was. Right? What's up, Mike?
Why does it tend to default back to there?
How long has it been here?
The amount of time.
Right? Time and muscle memory.
All right.
Right? Even the neuroplasticity part of this, if you leave that there for so long, it does stretch everything out. And the neuroplasticity pathways, they've learned that even the muscle memory there, it's controlled by the neurons in your neurology.
So then the new pattern is that
the new pattern, it hasn't been there long enough, right?
Okay.
Right? So this is brand new. This has only been here. If we got it on day 1, it's been there 3 months. So now we go another 5 months where we've already spent 30, 40, 50 years getting to this point. Of course it's going to go there, right? And that's why you can't just stop, right? And so many people just want to, oh, I feel better, or it's not working as fast as I'd like it to. I'm just going to stop. Well, you just lost everything that you put into it, right? And so that's why it's so vital to stick with it. But she did start again. And unfortunately, at this point, she would get better after adjustments, but her memory had started to go. And so she wasn't doing her home exercises. And so the tremors would get better while she was in the office, but then they'd come back when she was at home.
So this neck pattern was part of memory loss. Then.
Yeah. So she started losing that ability to retain those short-term memories, to know what to do, right? To build those new habits and new routines. And so even though we kept adjusting her 2-3 times a week and she'd feel better immediately afterwards, and she was going through all sorts of other therapy. She continued doing the psychologist and walking through talk therapy. And she was starting to do physical therapy as well. She was just starting to get so overwhelmed with everything that even though we were able to get her back even better than we had before, 24 millimeters of head forward posture, down to about 10 pounds of stress on her neck, the memory thing hadn't fixed because the brain was so damaged at this point. her physical therapist that said, "You're too stressed. You have to stop all the other stuff and just come see us."
So our brain can't grow. It does grow.
It does grow. Neuroplasticity is how it grows.
Okay. So then when dementia stops and those pieces stop,
Yeah,
they can't regenerate themselves.
it's very hard once you've already lost it,
Oh,
right? It's not that it can't, right? And I've been doing this long enough to say, to learn that never say never is so true. Like I've seen some really crazy stuff happen that if I said it, nobody would believe me and everybody would write me off as a quack. Because it's literally miraculous. Like there's not a known scientific explanation for it. But I also know that the power that created us sits inside your brain. It doesn't leave after you're born. It doesn't discard. It's what keeps your heart beating. It's what keeps your lungs breathing. It heals a cut in your arm or leg. It's killing cancer cells all the time inside you. It's breaking down old neural pathways that we don't need anymore. Like, do we really need to know how to say gaga goo goo all the time? Like, we can get rid of that one to create more space for something else. You know, so our brain's constantly doing that all the time. But when there's that interference in that pathway, whether it's chemical, whether it's emotional, or whether it's physical, our job is really just to remove that interference and get out of the way and let our body do the healing that God designed it to. Because when that happens, that's when the big stuff can really happen. So unfortunately, this is the last time I saw Margie, and she was better after the adjustments, and the memory component was breaking down faster and faster the more she went between. And the more she went between, the more excuses she made about not coming for adjustments. And the harder it made it for her to get in. And so it's just like, how important is this? And people ask me all the time, am I ever going to be ready to go down to once a month? And my answer is like, probably not. Based off of what I feel on your spines, there's enough stress out there, and even just chemically and emotionally in here, that your spine's going to hold the brunt of it. Right? And you guys have seen those emotional reactions to, or physical reactions to emotional stress, right? You get bad news and, right? Now I'm walking around like this. What's that doing to my physical spine and to my physical spinal cord, into those physical nerve roots? Now I've got high blood pressure and stress that's not just related to what's going on in here anymore. And so we have to recognize that. We have to deal with it holistically. We have to come at it from that 5 essentials approach in order to be able to heal it and grow it again. But so much of what happens with this is just undiagnosed in the spine because medical doctors are not trained or look at that curve in the neck. Right? And what did I say for life expectancy with that loss of curve in the neck? If you go 50% away from that, so 22.5 degrees, what is that equivalent to in years? 20 years of life expectancy decrease just from losing half of that curve in your neck. And so when I see somebody that doesn't have that full curve in their neck, I see somebody that needs active help, not somebody that needs to go into maintenance care. And while there's huge benefit to maintenance care, right? What did I say at your maintenance report? I said, the group of people that got regular chiropractic adjustments at just once a month, they saved an average of $7,000 a year in healthcare expenses over the next 5 years. $7,000 a year that they weren't spending on healthcare costs because they were spending money on chiropractic care, because they were regularly going for adjustments. And that's not home exercises, that's not nutrition, that's not fitness stuff. You add all that other stuff in, and then on top of it, the chiropractic care isn't just pop that needed to go, it's let's make sure things are moving the right direction. Now all of a sudden your body is able to heal and function at a higher level. That's what we want for you. That's really what we want for everybody. That's the reason why I'm starting the foundation and going out to People City Mission and giving away free adjustments, is because I want that for everybody. Everybody needs that. That's the big idea. BJ Palmer said, if you can change one life, how much of an impact does that make? But if we can change the lives of a town, how much does that change the state? And if we can change a state, how much does that change a nation? If we can change a nation, we can change the world. If we can change the world through a generation, just think about everybody. Like we saw a couple of geriatrics on the debate stage, and they're debating to try to, rule our country. And I'm not here to comment on either one of them, except I think they need to fire a little bit better and a little bit sharper, don't they? Right? If we could start to get to people before they get to that point and in the position where they're the two quote unquote best candidates to lead our country, like How cool would that be? Right? We've really got an incredible opportunity here to do this. And so, we've got several things coming up, right? Action step number one is always show up next month, right? Because you just drank out of a fire hose from all the Alzheimer's and dementia stuff, the neuroelasticity stuff, the chiropractic stuff, like just trying to remember all this is going to be too much. So I don't want you to remember all of it. At the top of the page, 3 things that you can do, list no more than 3. I want you to take action on 3 things. Number 1 should be, hey, show up next month so I can review all this stuff and maybe learn a little bit more. Action step number 2 should be the biggest thing that stuck out today for me that I know I need to take action on because I don't want any of those statistics to be me. Like I said at the top of the class, 300% increase in Alzheimer's and dementia statistics, just since we changed the dietary recommendations back in the 60s and 70s. We thought we were avoiding heart disease, and that's also tripled at that time as well. So we really need to start picking something that is actionable. So kind of go through your notes, review that, go back and watch the class online. And then make sure you're, number 3, you're identifying somebody that can benefit from this information. And how can we get that to them? Whether it's going onto the YouTube channel, sharing the link to the class that we just taught that's already posted, that some people are still watching online, just sharing that with them. Maybe it's bringing them to the recap class that I'll be doing in 2 Saturdays. I'm going to do that on the 27th out at Natural Grocers. What's her name? Kathy is going to be teaching a class on health span as opposed to lifespan. Health span, things that we can do right before I'm teaching my class on Brainfit. So I'm going to do the recap there. She's going to do that right beforehand. We're going to cook up something good out there as well. Or, also that same week, not the 27th, but the 22nd through the 26th, we're doing our next Friends and Family. And so Friends and Family Week, that's specifically for your friends and family. That one is so that they can come in with no obligation to get a consultation and a digital nerve scan at no charge. So if they don't know how their nervous system is working, if they don't know if chiropractic is right for them, they just want to talk to me, talk to Cheryl, that's the week to do that. All right. Next month, I believe our focus is on a little bit younger demographic. I think we're talking about raising families, raising healthy kids. So, some of you, that's bringing your grandkids back. Some of you, that's nieces and nephews. That's, and I wouldn't recommend bringing grandkids, but maybe the parents so that they can learn some of this, or maybe sending them the link for that class so they can come and show up and take notes so you can share some of the highlights with the children or grandchildren that need to know that, or with the nieces and nephews that need to know that as well. And then we're going to return to a similar topic in about 2 months. We're going to be talking about Forever Young, which is our longevity workshop that we'll be doing. So that one will be in 2 months. So we don't want to just burrow in on one topic, right? We want to spread it out a little bit, but then we'll come back and do more stuff after that. So we'll bring Cheryl back up here. If you guys wrote down any questions, now we'll do a little Q&A. And then remember too, all the supplements are 15% off tonight. If you want to get that bundle of the Daily Essentials or the Cogna Aid or the Brain Vital, those are 20% off. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk about the brain ones?
That's a good question. I haven't had a lot of experience with them. I know there are a lot of antioxidants that we focused on that Cheryl was talking about. You've got a little bit more experience.
And that's basically, I
Yeah.
know it's, do I have it?
I can pull it.
If you can pull up my notes section. I think I put it in my notes. Yeah, yeah. So Brain Vital is acetyl L-carnitine, alpha GFP, ginkgo, things that we know help with memory, blocks phospholipids, supports energy production, antioxidants, the Cogna Aid herbal formula to help with mood, cognition, and memory. Again, grape wild berry complex. I don't know what Uganda is. It's a trademark of some sort. Ashwagandha, alkaloids, ginseng. see, you know, if you go to the natural store, they'll talk about ginkgo biloba and to help with your mood, your depression. The ginseng, those have been long-standing that we know help with memory and mood. Know the cause. I think we'll show with but he's been studying this for 40 years or more. But he's saying a lot of this stuff is also caused by fungus. And so a lot of your herbs and stuff, you know, like oregano is antifungal. I know I've been taking oregano and I could tell a difference in my hemoglobin fluid also just doing that. So getting the fungus and stuff out of your body helps too.
Yeah, fungi and parasites are underdiagnosed in our current medical system. It's just, they're harder to test for, and, you know, and then there's not as much medication out there for it. But you're absolutely right. Oregano is a very potent antifungal. It's also anti-parasitic as well. So we can kill off a lot of that stuff and give yourself a lot of digestive distress in the process. But yeah, you got to get them out somehow. So once your body kills it off, then it's like, okay, time to flush.
Yeah.
Can you do a detox on those as well?
Yeah, and actually the first step in the gut cleanse has like oregano in it, as well as other herbs that are antifungal, antiparasitic, that'll kill those off. That's the first step, is kill off the bad stuff, including the bacteria, the viruses, the fungus, the parasites. And then step 2 is now let's restore the gut lining afterwards, so that it can build up the healthy microbiome.
What would you see if you detox stuff like that, if you were trying to get those things out? Would you actually see any physical signs?
It depends on how big it is, right? So some parasites, like I was a pastor before I did this, and so one of the books that I read, I like to read about missionaries. The missionary had gone like 40 days without food, and he didn't realize it, but he had a parasite, and the parasite got so hungry it crawled up his throat, and he ended up pulling it out by hand, and it was feet long. Absolutely disgusting. You're right. That is very rare, and usually you pick those things up in third world countries. But
tapeworms would be an example.
yeah, but like pinworms are far more common in our country. Ringworm, absolutely. You'll see that on people's feet or their skin. Yeah, it's not good, but sometimes it doesn't show up on their skin. Sometimes it's just in the gut, and so you got to deal with it.
It's interesting because I have a spot that I've had for like maybe a year. Well, I got it before I started here, and I'm like, I'm trading in. I tried something from doTERRA. I tried even like that the antibiotic Neosporin.
Yeah.
I thought, you know what? I had this little tube of Loachman. I'm gonna try it. So this is day 2, and it's already half gone. I was like, I must have like I don't know how I got it there. I haven't been around anything with ringworm, but I'm figuring that's probably what it was ringworm, and didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So that could have been from one of my detoxes.
Yeah, it could have been coming out, just latched back on there.
I didn't know.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's a crazy world out there. Yes, ma'am.
What is changing about daily?
Yeah, everything. So let's go back into it. So it's really just improving. So in the past, Max Living strove for organic sourcing. Like we wanted it to be as clean as possible, and organic was the top shelf level stuff. Well, since then, which it's been 20 years since we made those standards, regenerative farming has come out as an even better option. And so it's still organically farmed, but now it's regeneratively grown. So you're repopulating the soil with all the nutrients that it needed. So even if it was organic, let's say beets, that you were getting like nitric oxide out of to put into the heart formula or the women's multivitamin, if you just grow beets out of the same ground year after year after year, you pull all those nutrients out and then you don't ever get that back in. Now those same beets, same farmer, the same source, it's just not as high quality anymore. And so now with the Pure Path, so anything that you see with this green bottle, it is regeneratively farmed as opposed to just organically farmed. And so we're using another company to help fill in the gap there to get us from organic to regenerative. And so everything that's in the Pure Path bottle, it's still Max Living. We own the Pure Path label, but we're sourcing it from a different company so that we get that next highest standard. So I think there's a price difference here of like $1. So it's a little bit more, but you're getting more than your money's worth.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's us striving to get better. Designs for Health is serving most of the other stuff that's not going through there. So anything that's old label is probably still coming from Designs for Health, which is the top, medically prescribed supplements that are non-pharmaceutical.
So how long do you think it will be?
It's slowly rolling out, and we're changing formulas as we see need for changing in the formulas. So I think we're probably about a month away.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the last I saw was end of July, 1st of
Yeah.
August.
So we'll have new boxes for all of this, by fall.
Rebrand it.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of the other stuff you'll see slowly change over to
Doug Kaufman's the name of the guy.
Kaufman.
Those are good.
Any other questions? Okay, make sure to
Yeah.
remember your action steps, take your notes with you, and don't forget to stock up on whatever you need, because discounts get your punches on your card, so you get another percentage point off. If you don't have a card, get your card. If you don't know what card I'm talking about, okay. It's your discount.